What we're going to cover today is just some of the basic fundamentals of a good slice backhand. This is going to be the first part of the workshop. The second part of the workshop, I'm then going to go and do some comparisons to some of the most common problems we see on the slice backhand. So we will go a little bit into depth, but I'm not going to be covering every single component since they'll just take too much time. But let's just dive into this right away. And, the first thing we have to get right for the slice backhand is the grip. It's very, very important, the grip, since a lot of players have more of an extreme grip that ranges more towards an Eastern forehand. And if you go more towards a forehand grip, it naturally opens up the racket face too much. And I know a lot of you will probably have this problem on the slice backhand where the ball sits up too much. If it is your problem, let's see some yeses. Do you have the problem where the ball sits up? I know it's a very common problem on the slice. Paul saying yes, 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 yes. Yeah, there's a lot of yeses coming in. So this is why it's so important that number one, we get a good grip. So with that in mind, what is the ideal grip? Well, the general recommendation that we would give you is more of the continental. So the index knuckle will be on more 2. The heel pad will be around 2, but also it could be around 1.5, bevel 1.5. But that's a general recommendation, is around bevel 2. Now, that being said, there are some ranges of which you could work with. Like, for example, there are some pro players that have it more to 2.5. Now, we don't usually recommend this since that will open up the racket face too much for most players. But if you can hit it off at 2.5, by all means, don't, if it ain't broke, don't try to fix it. Then the other range of which you could go to is a 1.5. So that's on the ridge between bevel 1 and bevel 2. But just to simplify it as much as possible, I would just recommend going to bevel 2 or the continental grip for the slice backhand. So that's the first primary thing. You must have a good grip since it relates into your arm position, your arm structure, and also the angle of the racket face at contact. Now, let's go into the first component of the slice backhand, and that is going to be the ready position and the unit turn. And this is what we cover on pretty much all the ground strokes. They all include this key component, the ready position and unit turn. So in the ready position, you can see he has a relatively wide base. He could definitely be a little wider, but he's just doing it for demonstration purposes. Elbows a little bit further out and away from the body. Oops, as you can see there. Now, as you can see also, he's a one-handed backhand player. So he has his non-hidden hand on the throat of the racket. Now, if you're a two-handed player, you can have both hands on the grip. And then all you do is in the preparation phase, you slide the non-dominant hand up to the throat of the racket where it is right now for floor. So, but this does vary. Like I know some two-handed backhand players who for the slice backhand already start here in this position, but whatever works best for you. But now what you're going to see is, just like on all great unit turns, he's going to step out with this outside leg, just like so. He's going to prepare. See how he pivots his foot. So his foot turns out to the side and he loads the weight on the outside leg in the beginning. Now, the second component with this is he turns his upper body and shoulders away from the target whilst the arms do very little. Just like so. And now he's at the end of the unit turn. And this is where you really have to pay attention to a few things. The first thing I want to point out to you, in Florian's case, he admits it in himself in the course, he does go relatively high with the hidden hand and racket. And usually we wouldn't recommend going so high, since the higher you go in the preparation, the more likely you are to swing down too much. So this is not extremely high, but ideally, anywhere beneath shoulder level. So having the hand a little bit lower there is the general recommendation. But at the end of the unit turn, one of the first things you see how his hidden arm is relatively straight. It's very important. And just keep in mind, this is for the more traditional slice backhand that we're looking at today. Some pro players, you'll see that their arm is more bent, just like so. And the racket is more open at this stage where the strings are pointing up. But this takes a lot of timing to get this right, since now you have to straighten the arm to contact. And if you don't time it correctly, the ball is going to float or it's going to go into the net. So that is why for the traditional slice backhand, you want to simplify it more and you want to have the arm at the end of the uniturn relatively straight. And the next thing you're going to see is his non-hitting elbow. See how it's raised? What would happen to his racket face if his non-hitting elbow dipped close to the body? Let me see some suggestions in the chat. What would happen to his racket face? I'm going to test some of you. If his non-hitting elbow dropped in, what happens to a racket face? Greg drops, goes down, open. Yes, Bill. Exactly. It would open up. So that's why it's very important that you have the non-hitting elbow somewhere around shoulder level. That's the general recommendation. And then the next component with that, the strings are slightly open, but they're pointing more to what would be the left side. If you're a right-handed player, you'd be to the right side. If you're a right-handed player, left-handed player. So that's the basis of a good unit turn. Watch that one more time. So from the ready position, he steps out and loads the outside leg. He turns the upper body and shoulders away from the target, as you can see here. And now he's at the end of the unit turn where hitting arm relatively straight, non-hitting elbow is raised. The racket is prepared. It's not, the racket face isn't open too much. It's pointing more in this direction. And he's also, see how he's looking over the dominant shoulder. So he's really turned and coiled the body right there. So that's the first step, the unit turn. It's very, very important. Let me move this over here. I specifically made notes on everything I wanted to cover today, so I don't miss anything. So then the next step is going to be the stance and also the footwork. You know, what happens with the footwork on the slice backhand. Now, what you're going to see, if I just take it back. So as mentioned, the footwork, the first thing that happens is he loads the outside leg. So as you can see at this point, the weight is anchored on the outside leg, just like so. Now for the traditional slice backhand, what stance do you think we usually recommend? It's pretty clear, it's on the screen right now. But this is for traditional. Let me see some suggestions. I'm going to be doing this throughout all of our calls. I'm going to be testing you just to see some closed, yeah, closed. But what about on the screen right now? If you was to look at the screen right now, what stance? There you go, Fernando, neutral, yeah. So that's exactly right. Everyone is saying closed stance. You're exactly right. When you're at more an advanced level and you're moving around the court, you're going to be primarily hitting from a closed stance. But in the beginning, when you're learning the slice backhand, it's actually better to go into the neutral stance, where both feet are parallel with a single sideline, since that is going to help you develop more of a drive slice, since you're going to be able to drive it more out towards the target. So that's the basis for a traditional slice backhand. But as mentioned, when you progress up the levels, you'll go to a closed. But now the next thing now with the footwork, pay attention to what happens here. See how he's stepping forward, he's striking with the heel, just like so. And now, as he steps forward, the weight is now going to anchor on the front leg. Watch that one more time. As he begins to swing forward, watch how the weight transfers onto the front leg, just like so. And he actually leans into the shot a little bit. As you can see, he's leaning in a little bit, not too much, he's not too extreme. But why does he do this? Why does the weight transfer onto the front leg as he swings through? The reason is he now stabilizes his body. It creates a strong foundation now for him to really drive and swing through. That's why it's so important that, you know, you transfer the weight to the front leg and you anchor that leg. So now you have a very strong foundation to hit off of. And as you can see, what happens with the back leg, it's up on his toe. That tells you the weight is transferred through, which is very important. And you can see his foot now, back foot slides a little bit forward. So that's the basis now of the footwork. So we covered step one, which is the ready position and unit turn. Step two is the footwork. Let's just cover that one more time. First step is he pivots that foot to where the toes point out to the side. And he's loading that outside leg. Now from here, he steps forward into the neutral stance. Remember, this is for a traditional slice backhand. He strikes with the heel. Now, as he begins to swing forward, he now transfers the weight onto the front leg and he anchors that leg. So then it's a strong foundation to hit off of, just like so. Then the body raises at the end and the foot is up on a back toe, just like so. So that's the basis of the footwork for more of a traditional slice backhand. So now, what's the next step after this? The next step is going to be to discuss the swing path, which is very important. And I just seen a suggestion there, Fernando, straight on. Yeah, we're going to be getting into that right now. This is going to be relating to the swing path. So the swing path on the slice backhand is very important. And this is where a lot of players make mistakes. And what you're going to see is, I'm going to stop it at the end of the unit turn, and we're going to work from this basis. The first general idea you want to keep in mind is the basic swing path of a slice backhand replicates more of what we call a banana swing shape. And the swing will go down to contact. It'll go a little bit further down after contact, but then it'll come forward and back up out towards the target. A lot of players make the mistake of swinging down and across their body too much, and this results in the ball sitting up, and also it results in a lot of inconsistencies on the slice backhand. So that's the first general concept to keep in mind. But now let's talk about the hitting arm itself. What you're going to see is, so from this position, his arm is relatively straight, as you can see. But now as the hitting arm and hand begin to drop down, what you're going to see is he straightens his hitting arm. Watch this closely. See that movement there? So as the racket drops down, the hitting arm straightens. So then at contact, he's in this crucial position to where the hitting arm is now straight. Very, very important. Watch that one more time. So from this slightly bent position with the arm, he now swings down and straightens the arm. So at contact, his hitting arm is now straight. This then allows him to simplify the process and to swing from the shoulder, maintaining that straight arm. See how the arm remains straight, just like so. So that's a very important factor in regards to the swing path. Now, the other thing, let's actually talk about that banana swing shape. So as you can see, the racket and hand are going to drop down to contact, down, just like so. Now, watch what happens after contact. It's very important, especially for a drive slice backhand. You're going to see it's going to go down just a little bit more, but then he's going to bring the swing back up, forward and upward out towards his target, as opposed to swinging across his body. Pay attention to this. See where the swing goes now. See how he's lifting it back forward and upward out towards the target. See the spacing between his hitting hand and his body. See how much space he's creating there. It's really creating that banana style swing shape. Very, very important. Let me just see here. Fernando, contact at knee level. Yeah, for this particular ball, it's actually just above knee level. So it's somewhere around waist level. Anywhere in this range will work. It gets more difficult to hit a slice backhand from around shoulder level. It's definitely possible, but it's more difficult. So that's the basis of the swing shape. Let me just show you that one more time. Pay attention to the banana style swing shape. So the arm straightens as he goes down. And now after contact, he goes back up, forward, out towards his target, and he finishes in this high finish position where the hand is approximately at eye level. So that's the swing shape. Now, let's look at the contact point. This is very, very important. And this is what we related into in the beginning. I spoke to you about the grip. And I said that the grip was a very common factor to why players are missing the ball, having the ball sitting up, and flying long. And this also relates into the contact point. So let me forward it onto contact right here. So as you can see, the racket is minimally open, literally a few degrees, just under 10 degrees, just like so. What you really want to avoid is having the racket too far open, since as you can see, just basic physics, if it's going to be too open, the ball is going to sit up, it's going to fly long. And even if it don't fly long, it's just going to sit up. The opponent is going to have an easy ball and he's going to be able to dominate from that shot. So the racket face, as a general recommendation, is minimally open, just a few degrees open. And that's why it relates into the grip. If you don't have a correct grip, it's going to naturally open up the racket face. And also, if you don't have a straight hitting arm structure, that can also result in the racket face being open. It's very, very important, that factor. Now, let me just see. What's the ideal angle that you swing down to contact? Is it more down or more horizontal? It's going to be It's not going to be straight down. It's going to be going more, let me just think, it's a 90-degree angle. It's going to be more like a 45-degree angle going down. So it's also going to be going down and forward towards contact. If you're just going straight down and there's not much penetration through the swing, the ball is going to fly up. So that's a general idea, around a 45-degree angle going down to contact. Now, there's another big component of which I want to show you at contact, and this relates into the wrist position. So as you can see here, with the straight hitting arm structure, he's also cocked his wrist. So it's a stable wrist structure. The knuckles are pointing slightly up, as you can see. And as a result, as he swings down to contact, he's creating this letter L, as you can see, or some people call it a V, a letter V. And this is very important. A lot of players collapse the wrist where the racket face already at this point is somewhere down here. And the wrist looks a little bit more like this, where it's collapsed down. So it's very important that when you're swinging down and also through contact, that you maintain that stable wrist. We call it that cocked wrist position. Now, obviously, don't exaggerate it to where it promotes a lot of tension in the arm. Just feel that it's stable and the knuckles are pointing slightly up. Very important. And you'll see that now he maintains that position. See, after contact, see the position there? See the knuckles are pointing slightly up. And he maintains it throughout the whole swing, just like so. Once again, let me zoom out and zoom back in. See the wrist position there. Arm is straight and it's a little bit cocked up, just like so. So that's the contact.
So that wraps it up for the first part of this deep dive. Now in part 2, we're going to go into more details on some progressions that you can do within the comfort of your own home. So to watch part 2, all you have to do is become an All Access Pass member. And the great news about that is when you become an All Access Pass member, you get VIP access to all of the future deep dives that we hold in the future. And also you can send in your recommendations on the topic that you want us to cover next. So for more details on the All Access Pass, all you have to do is scroll beneath the video right now to find all the details.